You don't have to learn to trade alone. Welcome to the Trading Lifestyle Podcast, where we interview professional currency traders and industry experts who can help you improve your trading and your life. And now, your host, Hugh Kimura.
What's up, traders? This is Hugh. And in this episode, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Arif Ahmad, managing partner and co-founder of Scandinavian Capital Markets. And in this episode, I sit down with him and talk about what it was like to start a brokerage, why he chose Sweden as a place to start a brokerage, and we talk about the types of changes that he wants to see in the Forex world. So it was a lot of fun being able to go out to Stockholm to talk to these guys and hang out, and I hope that this episode gives you some insights into the world of Forex brokers. Before we get started, remember that trading is risky and you could lose all of your investment. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not trading, tax, or investment advice of any kind. Past performance does not guarantee future results. All right. Hey, everybody. We're here with Arif from Scandinavian Capital Markets. Good to meet you, Arif.
Good to meet you, too.
So we're going to talk about how you started SCM Forex, what you went through, and how you guys are different. So maybe you could start us off with
Sure. So I guess, we really started as an asset management company many years ago. We were developing strategies, algorithms and different type of trading strategies. And essentially, we onboarded with a number of brokers, good and bad. But, typically, I guess always ended up in a disappointment, to be honest. We got scammed by a lot of brokers. Mm-hmm. They booked us many times, and that kind of, I guess, led us to the conclusion that we needed to start our own brokerage, to be able to meet the needs that we needed basically as an asset management company. Mm-hmm. So that basically led for us to really think seriously about starting a brokerage, and we thought that at the time we thought that there is really no Swedish STP broker out there. Mm-hmm. The market's being dominated by a lot of shady characters. Unfortunately, a lot from Cyprus, Malta, the Mediterranean regions. Mm-hmm. So we thought that hey, this is a great way to leverage everything that Sweden and Scandinavia stands for. What is Sweden known for? It's always known for safety, security, transparency, no conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. So our thought was that, what we could basically do is incorporate a lot of these values into an FX broker, mm-hmm. So, with the neutrality principle basically that Sweden has is that, it has no conflict of interest essentially. Mm-hmm. So, that was really our thought, and we looked at a lot of other very famous Swedish companies such as IKEA, Volvo, that have done phenomenally well in their specific industry. IKEA is known for very good quality furnishing. Volvo is known for very safe cars. Mm. So what we thought was we wanted to incorporate a lot of those values into the FX space as well. So. That's really where the idea started. So, we started the brokerage 2017. We got great response from a lot of people because this was the first Swedish, Scandinavian SDP broker out there. So it's really been a great, time and adventure so far. We've been receiving a lot of positive messages from people that really like the concept. They like the Scandinavian setup, with the Swedish banking, mm-hmm. and the Scandinavian banking. So that's really our story so far. It's been a great ride, and I think it will hopefully continue.
Yeah, that's awesome. So maybe you could talk a little bit more about regulation here in Sweden,
right?
Because it's kind of from what I can see, it's a pretty good happy medium between the U.S. where it's maybe over-regulated and those other places you're talking about which are under-regulated. So maybe you could talk about that. So
the thing with Sweden is that they don't actually draft FX-specific laws in this country. So, mm-hmm. Countries such as the UK or the US, for an example, where I guess they have pretty strict laws pertaining to, FX as an asset class, they don't actually do that in Sweden. So, okay. The license that you have is essentially, you have to adhere to their money laundering policies, AML, KYC. Mm-hmm. They do yearly background checks of the owners. You have to do reporting to the FSA here in Sweden as well. But, as a, related to specifically Forex, regulation, there is none essentially. So I guess that's the only difference between, Sweden and, other jurisdictions such as the UK or the US, for an example.
But the bottom line, I guess, is that if you're not super heavily regulated, you are regulated but not super heavily regulated, then that cost does not get passed on to the customer. Right?
Correct, exactly. That's exactly right. So, we don't have a very heavy regulatory burden, and for that, reason, we are able to, I guess, give a better trading environment to our clients because we're not that heavily regulated, so to speak. So you're absolutely correct in that. We can pass that along to our clients, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're talking a little bit about kind of the scammy stuff that went on. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit. We were talking about this yesterday, but I think it's important for people to know about that stuff, right? So what are the kind of, besides the shady brokers, what are kind of the other practices that you see that you kind of want to get rid of?
Well, I guess, this industry, as you know, has been, heavily, tainted by a lot of bad actors, bad characters. And I think it's really because, not to say anything bad about the online gaming community or the gambling community. Unfortunately, a lot of people from those spaces basically came into the FX space and has unfortunately given it a bad name. I think to an extent, the retail FX business as a whole. It's very easy to set up a business. If you look at, the cost of, getting up and running, you just need an MT4 white label, which, doesn't cost you more than 5,000 to 10,000. And, so it's a very low entry barrier, so to speak, and for that reason, I think that, people have unfortunately, come in from other spaces such as online gaming and, gambling communities, and really given it a bad name, to be honest. Everything's, looked at as a CPA. You don't really see the people as human beings. You see them as more as an MT4 number, unfortunately. And this is really what we're trying to do differently, in Sweden and Scandinavian Capital Markets with the Valhalla initiative, is that we're actually inviting people over to see us, who we are, to see the company, to see our offices. And we really got the idea from Volvo, if I'm quite frank with you. I don't know if you know about Volvo, but what they do is that whenever they have a customer or a client, they actually invite them over to their factories, to see how the components are made, how the car is made. They show the A to Z process in terms of how the car is made, and that's kind of the concept that we wanted to copy to Scandinavian Capital Markets as well. To actually show the clients who we are, who the owners are, who the leadership is, how what our ethos is as a company, and really be very, very transparent about it. And again, going back to the Swedish culture and the Scandinavian transparency, is that these are the core values that we really want to project to to the clients. So really that's what we're trying to do with the whole Valhalla concept.
Okay, cool. Maybe you could talk a little bit about you and Michael and how you met and all
that. That's an interesting story. So my partner Michael, as we were running obviously the asset management division many years ago, he actually was a trader managing some of our funds. And he was a phenomenal trader. He had a great track record. Had made a lot of money to our clients. And then obviously we bonded and connected, as friends and obviously colleagues and partners. So that's what we really started thinking about, obviously, that we're not really getting the fair trading environment that we're looking from these brokers that we were onboarded with. And he thought that he could do a lot better if we had our own setup, that would really meet our needs and wants as an asset management company, as traders, essentially. So that's where we thought that, we're like, we have the setup, we have the suite, the infrastructure with the banking and the license and everything. So we thought that, hey, it's a great way to, first of all, create something, a good trading environment for us, but also to offer that to other asset managers and other traders out there who are looking for this, So that's really where the conversation started. So, that's where we're like, hey, let's look at, setting up our own brokerage, which will be sort of another division of the company. That's essentially how it started. So, Michael runs more the brokerage operations in terms of, IT and infrastructure and technology, and I take care of more of the marketing side and the client relations side, so to speak.
Okay, cool.
So it's a great mix. It's really
you guys get along very well.
Very well. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of trust between us. Going back to before, where we were scammed by other people, other partners, etc. Now we've actually bonded quite a lot, and it's a very strong and good relationship. And he has my back, and I have his. So it's been really terrific from the start.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So there's one thing about brokers that I didn't know early on, and maybe most people don't know, because I guess brokers will tend to slip profitable traders. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit, or
sure. So slippage to an extent is associated with obviously a lot of BBook brokers, people who internalize the risk. However, slippage can occur obviously if you're trading larger ticket sizes as well. So typically, if you're trading, for an example, if you're trading a very large order or very large ticket size, let's say it's 100 lots or 200 lots or 300 lots. Typically, if you execute a 100 lot trade, the top of book is typically only 100 lots. Okay. So that means that the top of book is the exact price that you're going to get when you click on that price, essentially. However, if you're trading, let's say, 400 lots or 500 lots, what then happens is that you get the first 100 lots for that price, but the second and the third and the fourth layer, it's basically going to be an average of all the different layers, so to speak.
Okay.
So for that reason, it's not really a slippage. I guess it's more of an average price of all of the layers that you're executed at. So people call it slippage, and there obviously slippage exists, but also if you're trading large trade orders and ticket orders, then you won't be able to get that price for 500 lots or 600 lots or whatever, because there's no depth of market, and the top of book is unfortunately about 100 lots typically with brokers. So
okay, cool, that's good to know. Yeah, my friend actually built a system where he would execute the orders like in little chunks so that he wouldn't run into that issue.
Right, exactly. That's what a lot of people do, because obviously if you're going on with a huge chunk, then obviously you're gonna get the average price of all the different layers in the market. Whereas if you split them up and you go in with increments, you're not going to get as much slippage. So absolutely, that's a great technique that your friend is obviously using.
Okay, cool. So what do you guys think about, this is a common thing that people look for, I guess, in brokers. What do you guys think about scalping in EAs?
So obviously as a broker, I'm very neutral. Our job is really to give you as a client and as a trader a good, execution venue and a fair trading environment. So for us, whatever strategy you use, we don't really have an opinion about it, as long as we try and make you successful. Because we're a strictly STP broker, we want our traders to win. We want to retain a long-term relationship to our clients, so that we can retain them as a clients. Somebody coming in with $500 or $1,000, and unfortunately blowing that account up is not going to make us money, and obviously not going to make the client money. So for us, we try and support our traders as much as possible to give them the proper tools to be able to succeed, whether that's an EA or if that's scalping, or if that's trend trading or breakout trading or whatever. So our job as a broker is really to be able to give you a fair trading environment and the proper set of tools to be able to succeed. Because obviously, if you are a client for many years, that makes us money, but that makes you happy because you're a profitable trader as well. So that's really our ethos, in our brokerage, that we try and support our clients as much as possible, regardless of which strategy that they're actually using.
Okay, cool. What platforms do you use? MT4, obviously, but
Correct. So we have the MT4, which is obviously one of the most popular trading platforms out there. It's been a while. I mean, it's been out for 15 years. So they tried to get it on to MT5, but that hasn't really succeeded yet. And then we are actually in the process of launching our institutional platform called the Scandex platform, which is more really suitable for, I would say, institutional type traders, asset managers. Family offices, fund of funds, etc., that are looking for a more institutionalized platform as opposed to the retail-esque MT4, so to speak. So that's what we're working on currently, and I think when we launch it, hopefully it's going to resonate well with the traders. So our goal with our brokerage is really not to be a one-trick pony, but to offer diversity to our clients, to show that we have other offerings as well, and ultimately going back really to give a good trading environment to our clients, whether that's in an MT4 platform or it's in a more institutionalized platform such as the Scandex.
Just out of curiosity, what's the biggest difference between
well, I guess the institutional platform is that you can see market depth. For an example, there's charting on it. For asset managers, for an example, there's functionalities whereby you can do different risk allocations for different accounts. It's a very automated process. You can set risk parameters on each account. So there's a lot of more, I guess, tools that are more geared towards asset managers as opposed to more retail traders, so to speak. So we try and cater to both, and again, try and give them the tools that they need really to be able to succeed.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. So maybe you could talk a little. You talked about it a little bit before, but the Valhalla Experience. How does
Right. So the Valhalla Experience is actually an interesting one. So if you know anything about Nordic mythology, for an example, Valhalla is actually the place where a lot of the slain warriors actually resurfaced after they died in the battlefield. So and then basically went on to live an eternal life in heaven or paradise. So in the same manner, what we're trying to do here is that for traders that got burned or scammed or had very unpleasant experiences, what we are trying to do basically here is to do the same thing for them, to basically give them a Valhalla of FX essentially, where they can go on and have a very good trading environment to be able to trade in. And what we're trying to do is something different. We're not the biggest broker in the world. We're not the smallest broker in the world, but I would say we're the most personable broker in the world, whereby we actually invite clients over to our offices in Stockholm. We meet them, we hear their stories, they hear our stories. And again, going back to the Volvo, it's total transparency. So that's really what the Valhalla initiative is about. It's a movement that is aiming to give an alternative, unfortunately, to Cyprus or Malta or any of the other jurisdictions that unfortunately for some reasons have gotten a pretty bad name over the years. So for that reason, we're really creating this eternal trading environment for all these slain warriors, these FX warriors, to be able to come to Valhalla and finally get a good resting place to be able to have a very, very profitable trading environment and place to trade from. So that's really what the movement is about, and so far it's resonated very, very well. From the articles that have been published and from the people that we've talked to, everyone says that it's really about time that somebody does this, because industry leaders have to do it. The guy that got scammed or the guy that got burned, he doesn't have a platform or voice to be able to spearhead a change in the industry. Whereas we, as brokers and like-minded people such as yourself, forex educators, and traders and asset managers and people with a voice and a platform, we are able to do it. So what we're doing is we're allying ourselves with like-minded people, good people in the industry such as yourself and other key influencers, to be able to unite and basically give an alternative to these bad actors or these bad places in the FX space, so to speak. And so far it's been great. You know, we're getting tons of positive messages from people, and people are really excited about, you know, where this change is going to lead us, you know. So it's been great, and I'm certainly very, very excited to, you know, move forward with this.
Cool. Yeah, we definitely need some change in the FX space.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on crypto? I know we were talking about this last night, but
right.
Just want to hear your thoughts.
So crypto is interesting. Obviously, a lot of back in 2017 or 2018, when you obviously had the huge bull run in crypto, you know, a lot of people said that, you know, and there were a lot of FX guys that went over to crypto, you know, and everyone's like, you know, FX is dead. Everyone's hopping over to crypto. But now you actually see that a lot of because of the crypto winter, quote unquote, a lot of guys are coming back to FX, you know. But what's also very interesting is that a lot of people that discovered crypto are actually discovering FX now, you know, because, you know, they are applying the same technical analysis and stuff that they used on crypto. And now they're actually discovering other asset classes, you know, such as FX, you know, to be able to trade because they like the volatility, you know.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that, you know, from crypto, you actually had guys that discovered FX, you know, and vice versa. So it's really, you know, sort of a great synergy, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so I think FX is not going anywhere as long as we have fiat currencies. And I think obviously blockchain is here to stay as well. Whether it's you know, Bitcoin that's going to be the gold standard or not, I don't really know. You know, there might be another blockchain or another coin that's going to be, you know, the most predominant one. But I certainly, you know, think it's a great asset class. I mean, there's a lot of very interesting applications within the blockchain that can help, you know, societies. So I'm very, very for the blockchain system. And again, you know, I don't really know, you know, if there's going to be another bull run or not in Bitcoin, but I'm very excited about, you know, what's happening specifically within the blockchain community.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that kind of mirrors my own opinion of it. So it's good to hear.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so I think that's about it. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or?
Yeah, well, I guess it would be interesting to hear from your perspective. Obviously, you know, you've been around for many, many years. You know, you've seen a lot. You've spoken to a lot of people. I guess what's your sort of report on the industry, so to speak, right now, and where do you see the industry going, you know, in the next couple of months and a couple of years, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, like you talked about, the industry I think has cleaned up quite a bit. Before it was like the Wild West, right? And now you're into more reputable brokers, consolidations of brokers. But I think, well, in the next couple of months, I don't think there's going to be big changes, but I think that the biggest changes later on are going to be how trading is taught. And like I'm trying out for this hedge fund, and they're using bio data to record your data when you trade. So I think that's kind of where the future is going to go in terms of trader performance, human performance, and actually trying to quantify what a good trade looks like for somebody. So I'm really excited about that kind of thing.
Right.
And yeah, cleaning up the brokerage space and all that. But yeah, that's where I see it right now.
Right. Absolutely. I think, you know, I think there's definitely going to be a lot of changes moving forward. Obviously, with regulation becoming even, you know, harder and more strict, you know, with MiFID II and ESMA, you know, you have seen a lot of brokers that have dropped a lot in volume. And to a certain extent, I think you know, too much regulation is never good, but I think, you know, some happy medium is always good because that sort of keeps the bad actors away, so to speak. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
So, you know, I certainly agree with you. And I think really what we need to do is really change the culture of Forex. I think that's really what's important, you know.
Yeah.
What is the culture of Forex, you know? And that's really what we're trying to, you know, do at Scandinavian Capital Markets is really spearhead a change. You know, we have a conference on May 7th in London where we're, you know, inviting industry leaders within the space, you know, hedge funds and, you know, family offices and professional traders. And, you know, that's going to sort of be an alternative as opposed to, you know, the IF Expo or, you know, the London conference, you know, with the finance magnates show. But this is sort of, you know, going to be a bit more of a, I guess, like an institutional type conference, you know, so
I definitely think that, hopefully, with these steps that we're doing with this initiative and the conference and many other, allying ourselves with key-minded, like-minded people, ultimately that's really what's going to spearhead the change. I can't do it myself. You can't do it yourself. But if we all unite, there might be a scenario where we can spark a change, so to speak. I'm really happy about and proud about the initiative that we're doing. Of course, we want to grow as a broker as well. We want to grow as a company, but it's much more fun when you have a cause as well that you're that you're burning for.
Yeah, totally. So maybe I should have asked this question in the beginning, but dealing desk, BBook versus STP. What are the benefits of STP? Or first explain what it is.
Right. So with STP is obviously, it's a straight through processing. So which means that, when you trade, we basically facilitate that trade to the interbank market or to our liquidity providers, essentially. So we have, liquidity pools of banks and non-banks that we basically execute your trades, and we essentially make our money only on the spread and the commissions, essentially. Which is the best, because that means that you're trading directly with the banks as opposed to a broker who's taking the other side of your trade. So if a broker is BBooking you and taking the other side of your trade, he's actually betting on that you lose your account or you lose your trade, because that's money in their pocket. So if you put a trade on your dollar and you lose $500, that's actually $500 that goes into the broker's pocket. Whereas if you win, that's actually $500 that comes out of the broker's pocket, the BBook broker's pocket. So the risk with that is that there's a conflict of interest, obviously. There have been tendencies before, and still, to an extent, where they can manipulate your spreads, they can widen your spreads, they give you a lot of slippage, freeze outs, all sorts of funky stuff that is really a theft, if you call it.
It's front running too, right?
Yeah, it's legal robbery. I mean, that's what it is. And so for that reason, they're actually betting on you losing your money, and that's why that you've been accustomed to very high leverage. The brokers giving 500 to 1 leverage to a lot of very inexperienced new traders, because they know, frankly, statistically, a lot of new traders, unfortunately, lose their accounts. So I think that's really the risk with going with the dealing desk, is that they don't really have your best interest at hand. Whereas with an STP broker, we're just facilitating your trades directly to the market, and we're making money on the commissions. It may not be the cheapest, but at least you have a peace of mind that you're not being screwed around with. I had some clients coming up to me and saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm getting 0 pip spreads at with this and this broker." And I'm like, dude, they're not making money on the spread. They're making money on you losing your account, and that's how they make money. Whereas with us, we have to charge a commission in order to, make revenue. But at least you have the peace of mind that, no one's going to screw around with your account, So that's really I would say the difference. And obviously, as a trader, you should go with the STP version than the agency model version, any time of day, because at least you can trade in an environment where that the broker doesn't, there's no conflict of interest, so to speak.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
I got those questions.
Okay, go for it.
When you think about the future of trading and specific forex trading and even cryptocurrency trading, what has to change? What's not working culturally?
Culturally, I think, well, like you're talking about, there's that whole kind of gambling mentality, right? I think that's the biggest thing that needs to be kind of extracted from trading. It's not gambling. It's a job. You have to exercise discipline. And if you got rid of that, I think you would get rid of some of these dicey brokers. You would get rid of some of these educators who are just trying to sell you a system that doesn't necessarily work for you, stuff like that. So I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. I really think it's the culture that needs to change, taking away the gambling mentality, of it, and really making it more mainstream, a more serious asset class.
Yeah, like treating it like any other profession, like
correct,
a job, like a doctor or a lawyer.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And unfortunately, I think to an extent, it's really been it's really become like that because of a lot of, I guess, online gambling people have come into the industry, and just like it's been morphed, so to speak. And which is really unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess it's the marketing also, right? Like you got Lewis Hamilton saying, open a demo account with $1 million.
Right.
And nothing against Lewis Hamilton, but just that type of marketing kind of attracts those type of the gambling type of crowd.
Correct. Exactly. Everything's looked at as CPA. Everyone's just an MT4 account. Everything's done through screens. So there's no really human interaction or human emotion involved. And that's really unfortunate, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's really where people become greedy, unfortunately, and try and screw you around, and because they don't know who the other person is behind the screen. And for that reason, they don't know his story. They don't know how long it took him to, make up these savings or, earn these savings, and that's really, unfortunate. And I think, good-minded people such as yourself and other good quality educators, really we need to unite in a cause to change the culture of Forex, to make it more serious, make it more professional, from this gambling type, industry. Unfortunately, that it's been turned into the past couple of years.
True.
And just a question for both of you about that: is that a risky business? I mean, are we messing with bad actors that are actually truly dangerous, or is it not a risky business and it will happen? Like, can this culture change happen? Number one, and if it does, is it a risky business to be the forerunners of it?
I wouldn't say it's. I mean, I think it. I think it can change definitely. It's just that people with a voice and a platform need to change it, I suppose. But to your question, I don't think it's a risky one, because I think it's being welcomed by a lot of people. A lot of people, see themselves, and the message resonates with the people. So, I think it can definitely change. I don't know what your opinion is on that.
I agree. I think it can change. I think you're always going to have the bad apples in any bunch.
Right.
But I think overall, like the 80% or whatever, I think that can change. And I don't think it's risky. Like you said, doing the right thing is always, in the best interest of everybody.
Right.
So,
Right. 100%. Yeah.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know I had a lot of fun doing it. I just want to say a huge thank you to Arif and Michael and everybody at SCM Forex for getting me out there, hosting me, putting me up at a great hotel, and taking time out of their busy schedule to show me the beautiful city of Stockholm. If you want to find out more about Scandinavian Capital Markets and talk to one of the team over there, head on over to scmforex.com. And if you're ever in that part of the world, they would love for you to stop by and visit their offices.
Thank you for listening to the Trading Lifestyle Podcast. To listen to all of the other episodes and get free access to Forex trading tools, tutorials, and resources, visit tradingheroes.com.